So anyone having any doubts regarding yesterday class? So today topic we will discuss about so when we execute the query for the first time, what will happen, and if you re-execute the same query again, and how it will behave in the backend. And we'll discuss about what is clustering in Snowflake and how it will work. So those we'll discuss in detail in today's class. So yesterday we have already created a table called EMP and we have inserted 3 records. Okay, so now today I'll execute this select statement. I want to view the data. So when I execute the data, the look and feel of the result will be like this. And if you want to download, by clicking on this button, we can download the result in 2 formats. Okay, so this is also an interview question. So whenever we are trying to downloading the result from Snowflake Web Console, so these are the only 2 file formats. One is Notepad and Excel, which is comma separated value CSV file. Only these 2 formats only it will allow it. Okay. And if I go to the history, so see today at 7:02 a.m. we have executed the query, and this is the query ID. If I click on the query ID, we will get it will take you into the high level profile page where we will get the high level details like which warehouse it was used and the start date and end date, the total duration of the query execution, and scanned bytes. So everything we will get the details, everything here. So if you click on profile, so when the query is when we are trying to executing the query, it is going to data storage layer. It will pull the data from data storage layer and it will show it in the result. Okay, which means we will get the 2 most expensive nodes. Which means when we execute the query for the first time, we will get the 2 most expensive nodes. One is table scan and result. Okay, so if you see in the right side, remote disk IO is 50% and initialization is 50%, and scan process is 100%. Byte scanned is 0 MB, percentage scanned from cache is 0. So I'll tell you. So what will happen if I re-execute the same query again? Okay, I'm going to the history. Okay, see, for the first time it took the warehouse size. For the second time, warehouse is not required. Okay, so please keep in mind, so when we execute the query for the first time, so it's a mandatory warehouse is required. Okay, this is the warehouse, which means the processor, and this is the size, extra small. Okay, so if you execute the same query again, which means warehouse is required, but the warehouse sizes is not required, which means here Snowflake will not charge anything for that. Clear? And if you observe here, the time duration we took for the first time it 904 milliseconds. Okay, so if we execute the same query, then it took 140 milliseconds. Okay, so if I click on query ID, it will take you into the high level profile page. So here we will get only one node, which is query result reuse, which means whatever the query is already executed and the data which is stored in the result cache. So if you execute the same query again, whatever the data which is stored in the cached result, that it will be reused. So that's why it will appear here as query result reuse. Okay. Anyone having any questions here?
Mahesh, have you written the new query here or just executed yesterday's?
Yesterday query only I have executed.
But you told, right? So within 24 hours, like it won't charge and...
yes, so it is already crossed 24 hours. So that's why it is charging. So if I go to the history, so yesterday, at what time? Yeah, see, yesterday, yeah, same select query. So yesterday at 7:39, we have executed this query. Okay, so that is the reason it is charging. Snowflake is charging for the data. So if we re-execute the same select query, then Snowflake will not charge anything for that. In the real time, what we have to do is so same select query. So for example, this is EMP table. So let's take an real-time example. So if you take any organization, so employee details will completely managed by HR people. So this HR people, they has to organization to organization. So this case, if the higher HR management team want to look for the data, so the overview of the employee details and who are working on which department and whoever getting promoted, they are moving to the other department. Those all the details they will verify in every 2 days or every alternate days. Okay, so here that cases what will happen is whoever is trying to executing the query, select star from EMP table. So today what I did is I have executed the select statement. So it is charged, Snowflake will charge for this for the first time. Snowflake will charge. So the cached result we should never, so before this step we should never disable the cached result. Okay, that is the first point. So ideally in the real time no one will disable the cached result, but sometime very rare cases they will disable the cached result. So when the moment they disable the cached result, then if you execute a number of times, that many times Snowflake will charge for that. Okay, and if the cache result is enabled and if you execute the query for the first time, the cache result will stay there for 24 hours. Okay, so we have to make one Excel sheet or whichever we are comfortable. So the same select statement, which time we are executed, the date and time, and time. We will make one track here. So at the 23rd hour, what we can do is we will re-execute the same select statement. So there is a table called EMP. In the employee table, we have all the employee related information which is managed by HR people. So if the HR is want to look for the data in a daily basis or alternate basis, so we will execute the employee table. So when the moment we execute the employee table, then we will start tracking in Excel sheet. Ideally, everyone will prefer for Excel sheet. So this table name they will add it and they will execute it from the date of or from the time of selection execution. They will maintain the date from the day. From that time onwards, the cache result will stay there for 24 hours. Okay, at the 23rd hour, if you re-execute the same query again, what will happen is the cache result will extend for another 24 hours. And the next day, at the 23rd hour, if you execute it, if you execute the re-execute the same employee table, then again it will stay there for 24 hours. Okay, so you may get doubt, so what will happen in between if I want to update or inserting or deleting the employee related details? So that cases, those operations should not perform. If any operation is performed in between, then if you execute the same select statement, then what will happen is Snowflake will charge for that. So the suggestible idea here is, this case especially, if we want to update or inserting or deleting, then what we can do is these details, either we can make different table, and at the end of the week or weekly basis or weekly or monthly basis, we can update the details to main table. This is one way, and another way is on weekly basis we can update whatever the operations we are going to perform directly on EMP table, so that we can save the cost. Got it? Any doubts here?
Repeat once again.
Yeah. So this is the employee table, right? So in the employee table, we having EMP table having all the organization's employee related informations. Okay, so those details, it will be maintained, all the informations like employee salaries, employee's ID, date of joining, date of birth, the material status, and whoever is getting promoted and who are working on which department, whether they are in bench or they are allocated to the projects. So this all information will be maintained in the employee table. So the HR people, how they will get to know is they want to look for this data in a daily basis or every alternate days once. So this is the common requirement in any of the organization. Okay, so as a HR, if I want to execute this select statement to look for the data, so it is not recommendable every time execution, right? So today I have executed. Today I have executed, and tomorrow also, and day after tomorrow. Okay, so if the HR want to view this data with today date and tomorrow and day after tomorrow without maintaining the tracking, then what will happen is Snowflake will charge every day. Just imagine every query execution it is taking uh, maybe in 1,000. I'm just giving an example, 1,000 rupees for query execution. And what will happen if we maintain the tracking? Because the HR don't know about the software, right? So we have to give. So as a Snowflake developer, we have to give a better, more ideas to save the cost. So today we give the permissions, or today we have executed. Okay, so Snowflake will charge for that. So if the HRs want to view the data, then for them Snowflake will not charge. For the first time execution of the query, Snowflake will charge. Then I will maintain the tracking in Excel sheet. This query I have executed with today date on so and so date. So from that time onwards, the cached result will stay there for 24 hours. Okay, at the 23rd hour, if I re-execute the query again, what will happen is again it will stay there for 24 hours. Which means tomorrow if I execute the select employee table, then Snowflake will not charge for that. And day after tomorrow also same. So here Snowflake will charge for the first time 1,000 rupees. But here 3 times we executed, right? So today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, Snowflake will charge every day 1,000, which means 1,000 into 3 days, 3 times. 3,000 rupees will charge. If you maintain the tracking and how we can make the tracking at the 23rd hour, if you re-execute the same select query again, then the cache result will stay there for 24 hours. So it will extend the cache result. So a number of people can execute the select statement. Snowflake will not charge for that. For the first time execution only, Snowflake will charge. But here, in between, we should not perform any operations like insert, delete, update operations. Okay, so if you in between, if you do insert and delete or update operations, and if you execute the select query, then what will happen is Snowflake it will go and hit the data from data storage layer. For that time, Snowflake will charge for that. Clear? If you maintain the tracking, from the day and time of execution of the query, exact at the 23rd hour or 22nd hour or 20th hour, if you execute it, from there again it will extend for another 24 hours. Clear?
Mahesh, you said a number of people can re-execute the query, which means like running the query ID or using the same query.
Using the same query, we can also give it. They can also execute the same table. If I execute the EMP table today, and if you also execute the same table, for you Snowflake will not charge. I have already executed, and the result it is already stored in the query result cache. So for you it will reuse the query result cache.
Okay, the query should be exact, or can we like suppose if I can select one or two columns from the table?
It is up to you based on, for example, in this EMP table having some 100 columns, and you don't want to 100 columns, you want only one or two columns, then you can add it here. Whichever the columns you need, select EMP ID. If you want only employee details, you can make it EMP ID from select employee ID from EMP table. And if you want salary column also, then you can make comma salary column. That's it. So only those related information only you will get it.
Okay, so to avoid re-executing the same query, do we have any concept called scheduling?
We have a separate topic on that task. Re-execute means here re-execution is free only.
Okay.
So Snowflake will not charge anything for that. Clear?
How the re-execution will process like automatically or manually for every 23 hours?
It will, as I said, Snowflake manage intelligently. So we don't have to worry about for that. I'll show you practically. So I'm trying to adding 3 more records. Okay. So remember, before executing that insert records in the history, the query result is reused because we have executed for the first time. For that time, Snowflake is charging. If I execute the same query again, Snowflake will not charge anything for that. Okay. So what will happen if I add records in the table? So I'm executing insert statement. So 3 records inserted. Now total 6 records available in the employee table. So if I execute it, then we will get 2 columns data with 6 records. Okay. So here, if you click here, so there is no order here, right? So if you just click here, you will get it by default automatically. Arrow mark is there, right? This is descending order. If you click again, you will get ascending order. Okay. So if I go and execute the history, if I refresh it, see, Snowflake is charging for that. detailed page, we are getting 6 records. You may get a doubt here why 2 times it is charging, because here we are inserting the data. During insertion of the data, this is a new data, right? So insert operation. So for insert operation, we need warehouse and the size. So if I click here, inserting few 3 records. Clear? So now if I execute the same statement again, if I go the history, if I refresh it, see now Snowflake will not charge anything for this query. Before within 24 hours, if I execute a number of times, if you execute 1,000 times or 1 lakh times, Snowflake will not charge anything for that. That is the beauty of Snowflake. Okay. If I delete any record, delete from table, which means condition, where EMP ID, which means in EMP the column level, I want to delete last record. Okay. So delete. So which table you want to delete? So delete from EMP table. Which record you want to delete? This is the where condition, where employee ID is the column name and 1006 is the value, employee ID number. Okay. So if we execute the delete statement, then record get deleted, number of rows deleted 1. Okay. So now you guys tell me, if I execute the select statement, what will happen? Either it should go to data storage layer to pull the data, or it will use the query result cache.
It will hit the data storage.
Yes, perfect. So if I execute the select statement, it will go and hit the data storage layer. Okay. So if you go to the history, if I refresh, for deletion it will charge, and for queuing the data, which means if you want to look for the data, for the Snowflake will charge for that. So now if I re-execute the same select statement, Snowflake will not charge for that. Re-execution in the sense, I'm trying to executing the same select statement again and again, and executing again and again. That's it. That we will call it as a re-execution. Okay, don't confuse that. Any doubts here?
One question. Yeah. Now you have written something in worksheet 1, right? So how long it will stay?
It will be available permanently until if you are deleting.
Okay.
So
only execution will be.
Execution also. For example, I have created yesterday we have created, right? After 1 year also, you can open the sheets and you can execute. You can perform whatever the actions you want.
As you said, the other also can access. So using same database or other also. Now you said employee is the EMP is the.
So okay. So yesterday we have created this employee related table, and we have inserted few records, right? So whoever not touching this table, which means no one performed any operations on this table, and after a year So if you want to look for the data, so still this data will be remain same. It will get stored there only. So it won't. It is not something like if you are not performing anything, it automatically get deleted. No, it will permanently stay here only. Okay, clear? Yeah. So until unless no operations performed on this table. So without your permission, if someone is deleted directly from EMP table, then you can escalate on him. So without my permission, which means you are the authorized person. So you are the person who created this table and you maintain all the data. Without your permission, if I deleted and or if I recreate the if I use the create or replace statement to create the table name with same name, then your data will be, you lost the data, whatever your data you maintained, right? So ideally we should not do that. So whoever is trying to creating a table, they has to verify with whether the same table name is exist already or not. So how we will get to know is either we can check it here, or the simplest way is create a table EMP. If I execute it, if it is creating, which means EMP table no one is used. If it is not existing, if it is not allowing you to create a table, which means someone already used the table name. Clear? So the drawback here is, I cannot say drawback, the use of the replace list. If I'm not using replace and if I'm trying to creating a table with same name, then system will not allow us. Okay, you will get the EMP table already exists. Okay, so if I use or replace, then if I execute the statement, so whatever the data which is available in EMP table, this data will automatically get deleted and it will recreate the table, which means it will replace the same table name, which means this entire table will get deleted and it will create a new table. Okay, this is the meaning of or replace. Okay, let's try it. Okay, EMP table is created. Now we will look for the data, whether the data is available in the table or not. So you won't get any records, 0 records will be available. The reason here is we have used the keyword replace, create or replace, which means this replace statement keyword, what it will do is, the EMP table is already exist, but it doesn't matter for the replacement keyword. It just ignore whether the table is created or not. It doesn't matter for the keyword. It just create the table. If the table having some billions and trillions of records, this replacement don't care. It just create the EMP table. Okay. So what will happen by mistakenly I have replaced the table name, which the table having some millions and trillions of records. So how you can get back? That we will see in upcoming classes. Okay, in the time travel concept we can get it. Okay. Any doubts so far? Okay. So here in the profile page, so bytes scanned is there, right? Bytes scanned and percentage scanned from the cache. So this percentage scanned from the cache is basically, so when we execute the query for the first time, the percentage scanned from the cache will be empty. So if you execute the same query again, the percentage scanned from the cache will be 100%. Okay. And bytes scanned is basically So when we pull the data from the data storage layer, so whatever the data we are trying to pulling, that data it will get scanned. Okay. Scan progress is something like so when we execute the query for the first time, and if you are trying to pulling all the data, or by applying the filter condition, only few records you are trying to viewing, so that cases it will scan the complete data. Okay, whichever the data we are looking, which means the complete scanning will be done in data storage layer itself. Okay. And the worksheet. So here, so you can create a number of worksheets. So if you want to name here, you can. So you just select that. You can name it EMP table. So whichever the name you are comfortable, you can make it the sheet name. Okay. So there is no restrictions here. You can create as many worksheets you want. Clear? So the next topic is we'll move to clustering in Snowflake. So the clustering in Snowflake is this is a separate topic. This clustering is basically how it will work is when we are trying to loading the data into Snowflake. It will automatically apply the multiple micro partitions, and it will get stored once the data is stored in the Snowflake. Which means the partitioning in the sense we have a table. So we have a table called employee table. So in the employee table, we having column names, type, name, country, and date. So if the combination of date combination, so if you especially look for the date, so the 11 bar 2 is there, right? So and the next header 1 and the next header 2, so it's a combination of 11 bar 2 and 11 bar 3 is there. And the next header 11 bar 2, 11 bar 3, 11 bar 4 also is there. So it is automatically dividing the data into multiple micro partitions. So if I want to look for the data based on the date column, so this select query, what it will do is it will scan all the data and it will look for the data like 11 bar 2, how many records are there. So here it is data was not maintained in orderly. Okay, so it will look for record by record. It is not look for record by record. It will look for the data in a column level. Okay, because this data is stored in column level, right? So here, imagine if the data is maintained in order wise, then it is easy for the query to get the result quickly. If the data is not maintained orderly, like 11 bar 2 and after that 11 bar 3 and after that 11 bar 2 and after that 11 bar 3 4 and after that 11 bar 5, and if I want to look for the data which is 11 bar 2, then Snowflake it will verify, right? So if I want to look for this data, then system will look for the query, this micro partition as well as this micro partition here. Till here, this data will be considered. And the micro partitions 3, this data it will look. So here the advantage of clustering here is if you apply the clustering, what will happen is the order of 11 bar 2 date values, this will remove it, this will come here, and this will come here. So when we execute the select query, it is easy for the queries to filter the data and it will show it to us in a quickly. So it won't take much time. So which means it is grouping the data and records within micro partitions. Okay. So it is Snowflake automatically groups the data in micro partition by defining the clustering key. So we will see how we can defining the clustering key in Snowflake. Okay, so Snowflake is applying only on column level, not for the entire table. Okay, so here the interview cache here is, so how Snowflake work in tables is, the clustering is basically the grouping of records within micro partitions is called clustering. So if you provide the clustering to a Snowflake column and table, what will happen is Snowflake automatically groups the data in the sense it will collect the same data in orderly, and it groups the data within micro partition and it will divide it by defining the clustering key. So when you defining the clustering key on date, then accordingly the micro partitions will divide and the data maintained in a proper order manner. Okay, the same way for country or name and type also. Okay, so the suggestible here is either you can apply the clustering on date column or in a primary column. So which is more recommendable. So the recommendable clusters, so you make this is the interview question, so how many clusters you can apply on a column? Maximum the recommendable clusterings we can apply 3 to 4. After 3 to 4 is not suggestible. Okay, maximum clusters allowed, I cannot say the maximum, the suggestible clusters will be 3 to 4. After that it is not suggestible. Okay, and this is how the micro partitions will apply. So this is the entire table we are trying to creating. This is the entire table. So when the entire file which you are trying to loading into employee table, once the file get loaded into Snowflake table, then Snowflake will organize the micro partitions. So here the catch is, while loading the data, Snowflake will not organize the micro partitions. Once the file is get loaded into Snowflake, then only Snowflake will start organizing the micro partitions. So this is how micro partitions will divide it. Okay. So if you apply the clustering on date, then how it will be is, so this is the table which we have loaded. You can imagine this data is maintained in Excel, and Excel data we are loading into the table called T1. Okay, so once the file get loaded into Snowflake, so this is how the micro partitions will apply. So micro partition 1, 2, 3 and 4. If you check for the date column, so this is how it will be maintained. So once you apply the clustering, after applying the clustering, so here applying the clustering on date and type column, which means date. This is the type and this is the date column. See here how the micro partition is defined after applying the clustering. See, these micro partitions, it is considering only 2 and the date is 11 bar 2. And the next micro partition also, it is completely filled with 11 bar 2 with micro partition with types in orderly, it will be maintained. So when I execute the query, we will get the quick result. So which means we will save a lot of money here. Okay, so after applying the clustering, so this is how the data maintained in orderly, and it is easy for the query to get the results in quickly, and the performance wise also it is huge. Okay, so this is after applying clustering. This is before applying clustering. Any doubts here? Okay, and what will happen if no clustering applying in table? So when you submit a query to a Snowflake, the query will get submitted to the cloud services layer. Correct? So the cloud services layer means, so when I submit a query to a Snowflake, it will go to cloud services layer. This cloud services layer will verify it whether the person is allowed to view the data or not. The permissions, it will verify it. Here, the permissions, it will verify in the cloud services layer, and logs also will verify it. So whoever is trying to looking for the data in the table, the same table, if someone is performing any operations, then my select query will be on park status, or it will be on hold status until the previous transaction is completed. Okay, that validation checkings, everything will be done in the cloud services layer. Okay, the cloud services layer 2 will check the data, and it will verify, and it will prepare the execution plan and submit this execution plan to this virtual warehouse layer. This virtual warehouse layer, it will pull the data from the data storage layer. Okay, so this, without virtual warehouse layer, we cannot run a select query. Here virtual warehouse is a mandatory. So we will call it as a muzzle of the Snowflake. Okay, this cloud services layer is it will collect all the services, and it will verify whether the person is authorized to do the perform the activity or operations, as well as if there is any conflict operations is applying or not. Everything will be controlled in the cloud services layer. Okay, so this we will call it as the brain of the Snowflake. Okay, so here, so you may get a doubt. So once the data get loaded into Snowflake, automatically micro partitions will apply. Yes, automatically micro partitions will apply it. So these are the automatic micro partitioning applying. Okay, so this micro partitions size will be maximum 50 to 500 MB. We can do that. So this is an interview question. The micro partitioning sizes will be 50 to 500 MB between. Okay, not less than, not 500 MB more than. Okay, so here, so what do you mean by exactly the micro partition? So consider a scenario when we are trying to loading a file into Snowflake database table. So when we load the file into Snowflake table, tables are horizontally partitioning into large immutable files which are equivalent to blocks or pages. Which means this is the table, right? This is the country and date column. Correct? So here, so in these columns having the data, this columns also having the data, this column also having the data. So this each column having the data, this data it will divide the data into micro partitions. So it will calculate minimum, maximum, sum, and average values also it will calculate by default. So it will divide automatically and it will apply the micro partitions. So the micro partitions will work based on the file which you are trying to loading. Clear? Any doubts here so far? So here the precautions before applying the clustering here is, the point number 1 is the clustering should not apply for all the tables. If the table having some trillions of data and billions and trillions of data, and we are performing operations on daily basis and applying operations on daily on the particular table, then only we will apply the clustering. Because while loading the data, Snowflake will charge by dividing the multiple micro partition compression techniques, and the data will stored in a column format, and the complete data it will be end-to-end encrypted format. The data will get stored. So after applying this all tuning activities, then only the Snowflake will charge for that. In top of that, we are applying a clustering. Okay, so while applying the clustering, for rearranging those micro partitions, also Snowflake will charge for that. So keep the cost in mind. So for small scale, medium scale tables, we should not recommendable to apply the clustering. So only if the table having some billions and trillions of records, then only for those tables only we are recommendable to apply the clustering. If the table having if we are performing operations on daily basis, then only we can able to get the performance of the clustering table. Clear? So here the size of the table as well as the query performance of the table should dictate whether to define the clustering key for the table or not. Okay, so in going forward, or when we get a chance to work on Snowflake, then you guys, if the customer or the consumer or your senior or architect, whoever is proposing you to apply the clustering on so and so table, so before applying the clustering on table, so you have to verify it, how many columns are available in the table. That is the first question. And the second point is how many records are available in the table, and is there the daily operations performing on the table or not. So these three criteria has to check mandatorily. Okay, and once you found these three, and you can drop an email to your architect or whoever is requesting you to apply the clustering on the specific table, you mail them, these are the things I have found it. Still, if you want to apply me to clustering, in top of the Snowflake will charge extra cost for clustering. Okay, still if they are agreed to go ahead with applying the clustering, then you can go ahead to apply the clustering. Clear? Any doubts so far? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mahesh, we are able to
Yeah.
hear you.
So, no questions?
Maybe while doing a theoretical part, we may get.
Yeah.
Sorry, practical
So-
part.
So we'll see the practical so that they will get an idea. Okay. So now we will move on to the next sheet, specifying clustering.